Brilliant. We'll start by saying good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AGM. I've got apologies for absence from Isabel O'Connor, Brian Liatanga, and possibly a child, and possibly Carolyn and Richard. Well, no, definitely from them because they're not planning to be at the AGM, but they're planning to be at the conference. So that's. Can I ask for your approval of the minutes of the annual general meeting held on 14th October 2023?
Yes.
No problem. Thank you. Seconded. Thank you. Good. Any matters arising from the minutes? No. Good. If that's all right, I'll proceed to my report, which runs to several pages. You'll be pleased to hear. And I'll just forgive me if I read it though. Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to you all to our AGM. In addition to you all here, I think we've got some people on Zoom. Very welcome to whoever is zooming in, our associates, and I think Charles is hoping to zoom in as well. This is my second year as chair. And I'd like to start by thanking my fellow trustees for all you do, for everyone's hard work, commitment and dedication to the cause, and all that is being done to keep PCW fit for purpose to deliver palliative care training and education in this ever-changing world. And of course, includes the invaluable support of Sue, wherever she is, our administrator. So the changes I reported and mentioned in last year's report have been successfully implemented, and I congratulate Fiona Rawlinson and Ruth Alderson for settling in so well as new trustees, and I'm delighted that you're both presenting today. We're an evolving organisation, only too well aware of the huge need for palliative care training in lower and middle income countries, and it could be argued some places in the UK. And whilst funding for us to deliver training remains a critical issue, so is having sufficient number of trustees able and available to deliver training, mentoring and consultancy should we be asked to do so. And it's making the connection between the need, what we can offer, how to bid for the work, and having the resources both in terms of personnel and financially to deliver. And for the benefit of others reading this report, it's important to point out that some of our work traditionally does come from donor-led projects, where a need for training has been identified, with PCW contracted to deliver training alongside country partners such as ministries of health, NGOs and faith-based organisations. So as part of our succession planning for the future, highlighted in last year's report, a small working party led by Fiona is taking this forward, looking to strengthen the board across key areas identified in the skills audit initiated by Jane Appleton, my predecessor as chair. And I'm happy to report we have 2 potential new trustees whom we are hoping to join the board next in 2025, but that still leaves the board needing 2 more trustees to replace this year's retirees. So this is work to be done urgently, and I'm hoping that by this time next year, if I step down as chair and retire from the board, I will be able to report that additional trustees have been appointed to ensure we remain a robust organisation capable of attracting expressions of interest which translate into work. We're mindful of our responsibilities around ethnicity, diversity and inclusion, to which PCW remains totally committed. I mentioned trustees retiring, and I'm very sad to report that Carolyn Collins, one of the founding trustees, and Michael Minton, who came soon after PCW was founded, have decided to step down. To say they will be greatly missed is a huge understatement. They leave a formidable and impressive legacy around their contributions towards developing and strengthening palliative care in lower and middle income countries, not only through the training programs, but also their commitment to ongoing membership and all that they bring and have brought to palliative care works. Karen has nurtured PCW's very strong link with Tanzania, initially through her beloved Muheza Hospital. Morning, coming in. Then the Tier Fund, Diana Fund-led Lake Region project, and more recently, her exemplary leadership and management of the War Hospitals programme in Southeast Tanzania, funded by the much lamented DFID. Among Michael's many contributions, including his mentorship on the Southeast Tanzanian work, he has led the very successful conference teams For more years than he probably cares to remember. It's generally acknowledged how important PCW's annual conference is in the sector's calendar. The continued relationship with Professor Heather Richardson and her colleagues on the Education and Professional Development team at St Christopher's Hospice is something we at PCW greatly value, and we always look forward to welcoming St Christopher's international students to our conferences, out of which several long-term relationships have sprung. Michael's extensive knowledge and experience of palliative care in India has happily led to new friends for us at PCW, as witnessed by contributors to today's conference, several of whom, it should be pointed out, are also former students, Professor Robinson's at Cardiff. Venn diagrams rule. All this in addition to what Callan and Michael have brought to the board meetings and day-to-day workings of PCW. Thank you both most warmly. You will be greatly missed. I'm delighted that you're both going to remain as associates. So we will continue to call on you. Our accounts are presented today. I'm not quite sure in what form, but I should issue an apology. They're not in the form that we would want them to be. We think you've got access to them in the papers that you've been sent, but what matters for the purposes of the AGM is that we're able to submit to the Charity Commission the certificate of examination that Philip Ruff has done, the external auditor. So I'm happy to report to you all that the accounts are in order and have been submitted, or will be submitted along with my reports. So I'm grateful to the finance team of Charles Campion-Smith, PCW's Treasurer Trustee, and Isabella Connor, our Honorary Treasurer, for keeping the accounts, and as I say, to Philip Ruff, our Accountant Advisor, for preparing PCW's accounts for independent examination as required by the Charity Commission. As previously reported, our only income is through grants badged to individual projects, but in which management costs for administration are now included. It is a precarious state, and without Ruth Woolridge's tireless work on grant applications, for which, as always, Ruth, we are hugely grateful, our financial situation would be much more vulnerable. Currently, we are very grateful to the Suter Trust and the Sahali Stewart Trust for their grants, reported in my report last year. I'm pleased to say that the 5 films about palliative care that we made thanks to the Sahali Stewart Trust grant programme continue to be seen as making a helpful contribution to not only palliative care training and advocacy. And as an acknowledgement of that, Ruth was invited to a reception at the Trust where a select few, PCW included, were asked to describe what had been achieved with the grants. So keeping our profile in this arena can only be good for us. The board continues to meet 4 times a year, and I'm happy to report that PCW's annual conference in 2023 was held immediately after last year's AGM, entitled The Changing Landscape of Palliative Care Education, with a keynote address from Professor Heather Richardson. It was a great success. Its proceedings can be found on PCW's website. Now, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Michael, for your inspirational leadership at PCW's conferences, as you lead us into this year's conference, which will be your last one. I can confirm that PCW's governance policies are regularly reviewed and updated, and appropriate training and refreshing undertaken by the trustees, again overseen by our administrator. Mark Ewins, our webmaster, continues to update the website, looking to meet one of last year's objectives, helping to raise PCW's profile. And I'm delighted to say we now have a donate button on our updated website. Hands up those who donated. Thank you. Shame. It works. Before reporting on what's been happening in this last year, I'd like to mention our associates, and if there are associates zooming in, you're most welcome. We're very grateful for your support for the stimulating WhatsApp group conversations and exchanges, and indeed to the wider circle of friends and colleagues here in the UK and internationally, several of whom are here for our annual conference which follows. Through these rewarding connections, some of which have come as a result of associates having obtained higher education qualifications under Professor Fiona Robinson at Cardiff University, the possibility of some promising work around collaboration and training is emerging, especially around refresher courses. With colleagues at Palliative India and the Bangalore Hospice Trust, with the Executive Committee of Zambia's National Palliative Care Association, and also with the Paediatric Oncology Department at Buganda Hospital in Mwanza, Tanzania. This is exciting new territory for us, but again can only happen if PCW is up to strength. So what has PCW been doing in the last year, apart from going to parties? Ever mindful of how PCW's training leads to improvements in the care of people with life-limiting illness and their carers, I'm pleased to report that the survey looking at the impact of our training that was outlined in last year's report is well underway. Fiona Rawlinson is leading on this and will be presenting at today's conference. As part of our commitment to mentoring, we are developing a series of information sheets around aspects of palliative care, and Charles Campion-Smith is leading on this, and his first on morphine usage has been well received. More will follow depending on requests from colleagues, so thank you to Charles for that. I'm delighted to report that following the highly successful completion of last year's THET Nursing Fellowship Nursing Now Challenge, supporting colleagues in Tanzania, please see last year's report, PCW was able to obtain funding for a second round, which is now entering its final 3 months. The 2 fellows concerned are proving to be excellent champions, and I'm delighted to report the presentations on this work will also feature in today's conference. Charles Campion-Smith, who leads on this work, and our associate Simon Pennell will continue to make themselves available and keep in touch with the students after the end of the course in December. This support clearly greatly valued by the teams there. And following on from the well-documented success of the Southeast Tanzania project, which again is being reported on at today's conference, this PET project has been a particularly rewarding experience. It has undoubtedly strengthened relationships, not only with these colleagues in Southeast Tanzania and the Tanzanian Ministry of Health, but also with PET, to whom PCW is most grateful for their support. So congratulations to all concerned. Whilst PCW remains absolutely committed to delivering face-to-face training on site, we are well aware of the expectation to explore ways of delivering some elements of training online. And in fact, we have been asked to do so by various organisations and to consider doing this. I don't propose to expand on this, except to say this is work in progress. And over the course of this coming year, we will be looking in more detail at models of blended learning. This may well be through the collaborations I previously mentioned, and I will be in a better position to report on this next year. Which brings me to the Lesotho training, to which I referred in last year's report, and which is the only training project PCW has at the moment. But having been delayed for reasons beyond PCW's control, I'm delighted to report these have been resolved, and at the beginning of November, PCW will be delivering a face-to-face 5-day basic palliative care training to 24 multi-professional hospital-based colleagues in Missouri. Our thanks to Paul Myers of the Wales and Africa Health Links Network, to Mrs. Tabelo Nefeani, the founder of the Starlight Oasis of Hope Hospice in Lesotho, the Lesotho Ministry of Health, and to Gillian Chans, lead Suprema for PCW, for getting us to this point. Again, I don't propose to say more, as there is a presentation on the background to this during the conference. Suffice to say, we are very excited to be back teaching face-to-face, which is, after all, what PCW is all about. Thank you. Are there any questions around my report? Any points? Any questions? No, thank you very much indeed.